that first section was really about the needs. So half of the assessment is, what are their needs? What do they need? And of course, a little bit of what do they want to do in terms of ambition. This second part is about how we satisfy that need with technology. And then the third part will be, how do we satisfy the need more generally with a combination of technology and people and all the other things we can do. So, Internet of Things, that's replacing Telecare. Telecare, to me, 20th century expression, Internet of Things, 21st century, cloud computing, wearable devices, all the buzzwords of today. It means anything that connects. So, if you like, this clicker is connecting to that laptop. This is my blood pressure monitor, which is connecting to my phone, which is somewhere around there. This is my Fitbit, which is connecting also to the family of Fitbit users. That includes my son, for example. And everything in the house is likely to be as well. So this is a growing arrangement of connected items. You can imagine your bed profiling being electronically controlled, a magic mirror that tells you what you're supposed to do today and tells you how rough you're looking, a bath that can be controlled, all the different temperature, obviously. What temperature do you have your baths, if that's not too personal a question? What's the temperature of your blood? Let's start off with that. And that's not just a pub quiz question even. Everyone knows, yes? 37, yes? So, give or take, if it's warmer than 37, the bath water, it feels warm or hot. Anything just a couple of degrees less feels lukewarm. So, what temperature do you have your baths at? Lukewarm, really? Save energy, okay. Boiling, I was waiting for that. How hot is boiling? On average, men have their baths at 37, ladies at 39. Okay, how long do you take a bath for?
I have a Japanese mindset, I stay in it for hours.
but do you let it go cold or do you top it up? I top it up, okay. Okay. Imagine the temperature isn't 39, but 42. How long could you stay in that bath? Yes, that's right. After 10 seconds, you start scalding. And at 45 degrees, you will have first-degree burns as soon as you're in there. So that's, a baby's bath, you put your elbow in, or have a thermometer. But maybe we need to understand more about baths and things. All of these things, though, are going to be potentially connected, giving us a smart home, if you like. And we'll come on to smart homes in a minute. This is, imagine me at home, surrounded by my equipment, all talking to me, talking to each other, talking through the internet to all sorts of other connected transport systems. So I know where the next bus is taking me, where I can buy things online. That is the Internet of Things, which we're trying to make use of. And it's great. And within that, there's a whole host of categories. We're not going to go into all these. I'm just listing them, and I'd have carried on further, but the page wasn't long enough. In the home, we can use monitoring using the Internet of Things. So, for example, we can look room by room, how people are moving throughout the day. So the occupancy, easy. We can also look at the door status. That's useful because it tells us if they're in the house or out of the house. We can look at the fridge door. Are they eating properly? If people keep medication in something with a lid on it or a box, you could monitor that. The larder. And we have lots of examples, larder situations. People with a learning disability who raid the larder 3 o'clock in the morning and deny it until they actually choke. But you know it's happened if you're monitoring. And that gives you the motivation. Do you really need staff overnight if nobody gets up at night? So you can see how this is going to changed the way that the service is provided. Electrical appliances, the same way. What do they do all day? Watch TV, listen to the radio? I think not. Do they boil a kettle? How many cups of tea does the average person over 75 have per day? Count them. That's right, it's remarkably consistent on what we have, and therefore you can tell that they're getting enough fluids. If they're not boiling the kettle and they're not going into the fridge, they're probably dehydrated, which matters because we need to do something about that. Appliance use, are they able to cook? When do they go to bed? Do they stay in bed? Do they spend all day in their armchair? Or do they need to get up? If you have a Fitbit, 10 to every hour, gives you a sudden reminder you need to, yes, you haven't done your 250 steps. So you get up and walk around. So that's good for you. That's a little nudge. So we can do all these things. Water, yeah, how often does the water flow? Which is useful, but it could be intrusive. That could be telling you how many times do people go to the toilet during the day. And that's interesting in itself, because if it changes, it could mean they have a UTI, for example. But there's lots of other things we can monitor. We have the technology. The question is ethics. Do we really want to monitor all of this? Would you be prepared to have these things in your house? No? What about a camera? No. I had this debate with a company from Scandinavia. In Scandinavia, anyone who reaches 65 is entitled to one of their monitoring systems. It's like our old Telecare, but with a camera built in. And they could not understand me saying that would not work in the UK. So I do ask audiences as well, you know, what do you think? Would you have this? And the general view is, actually, I wouldn't mind it being in the kitchen or in the hall or in the living room. Where wouldn't you have it? Bedroom and bathroom. And where are all the falls? Bedroom and bathroom. So you can understand how all this might work. But the question really is, you know, it allows the monitoring, and it produces all this data, which is incredibly powerful if we know how to use it, and if people know that we're going to use it as well. So this is the balance we've got to make. Aiming it at the children of older parents. You pay for it. Doesn't matter about any facility. Don't worry about Wi-Fi, anything. It's all mobile based. Low cost activity monitoring. How low cost is low cost? 300? What do you get? You get a sensor for the front door. You get something, a carer card. So if you're paying a carers, they need to lock in so you can flag that they've turned up. They're being paid, so they turn up. You've got movement sensors in the rooms, and the movement sensors also measure light level, temperature. My brother and I put one in my auntie's house. She had dementia. Her wish was she's a widow with no children. Her wish was that she should not go into a home. Social services said she needs to go in a home. We kept her at home. She lived 30 miles from us. We kept her at home for over 2 years, until in the end she fell and broke her hip. But you know, that was nothing to do with the dementia probably. She'd broken hips before, so it was a general frailty. And some of the things that she did that we had to take into account, she put her kettle on the hob and put the hob on and melted it. Very, very common. Other things she did, she put her plate of food and the knife and fork in the microwave oven, blew it up. So how do we manage for someone like that? Well, the cooker, the length of the lead for the kettle was such that it could not reach other than the closest ring. So we super glued the control off so she couldn't use that ring. She didn't actually need that ring anyway, she had 3 others. Anyway, things that happened, one evening about 9 o'clock, my brother noticed that the temperature in the kitchen was 35 degrees and it was November. And he knew by her movement pattern that she was in the lounge. So he phoned her and said, Auntie Pauline, would you go to the kitchen and switch off the cooker, please? She said, fine, and she did. She'd left it on. So that's the sort of thing that enabled this to happen. So £300 to buy the system and the about £20 a month subscription charge. It does everything that the Just Checking system, which is I was going to say 20th century, but not quite fair, although it had been demonstrated in 1998, but it was more modern than that, but more expensive. And the big thing, perhaps the small thing I should say, is that the sensors are much smaller and discreet, and she didn't know they were there. So were we taking advantage of her? Did she give consent? Well, actually we said, do you mind if we put these devices in your house so that you don't have to go into an old people's home? And she said, not at all, help yourself. To me, that's consent, but you could say we're pushing the boundary a little bit. But sometimes, her underlying raison d'etre was, keep me in this house. So we were doing everything we could to do that. And the Just Checking was a big part. There are other systems too. Just Checking, is that available here? Or?
Well, we've got some Just Checking, we've got Canary at the moment, but we have got some Just Checkings, but they're not particularly user-friendly.
No, so these are, but the great thing is it's the family who'll sort this out. Yeah, they might ask you to install it for them, but we can come to some arrangement there. So more generally, we can do all of these things. This would be a smart home, a smart social care home. Everything in there, including a wearable device. Why a wearable device? Well, if there's more than one person in that house, you don't know whether you're monitoring the A or B. Whereas if they have this as well, then you can do things with that, and that really helps. And there's lots of other systems available. MyCare, at the top there, that's now available in Bromley as well. That's much more sophisticated, and it actually gives you a dashboard of performance. So more expensive, more sophisticated, but for people who really need support over a long period of time, or perhaps someone coming through a reablement track, someone coming home from hospital, see how they're getting on. Are they really improving? It can all be shown using this type of system. And so the idea of having a wearable device, you can have a wearable device that fits just about anywhere and everywhere. Lots of them, but how many would people genuinely wear all the time? Would you put on smart socks every day? No. So the one that really works for everyone is a wristband or a finger ring, because it can do loads of things. In fact, when I say loads of things, take the market leaders, Fitbit, Garmin and Whoop and things like that. £80 for a basic one, up to £200. This is a Sense 2 device. They can all do this. So you measure how often people go up and down stairs, how many steps they take. And this is great for independent living as well. And then for health and well-being, it does all the genuine health stuff. So actually, because it does heart rate monitoring, it can detect infections. It's being used in virtual wards in West Wales. It's being used both for prehabilitation and post-habilitation for people following surgery, because it detects, or it's capable of detecting an infection quicker and more more correctly than the surgeon themselves. And it's very much a consumer device. This is a shopping mall in Florida, and there's the machine from Best Buy, Fitbit tracker, buy it, straight off your card. So it passes my Argos test for consumer products. So I think that's really important. Another one which is worn, virtual reality. Who would pay $3,500 for an Apple headset? Someone admitted that they had more money than sense, didn't they? Oh no, sorry. Why would you do that when you can get a Quest 2 for $350? And the Quest 2, no wires, it all runs separately. And you can do meditation, mindfulness, improve people's stress levels, take you to exotic places for all your bucket lists in one session. Go swimming with the dolphins or the whichever other creature you fancy going out with. You can keep moving, having the music. People with learning disability love these. And what else can you do? Make yourself fit. Exact fit systems. And it increases your heart rate in exactly the same way as proper exercise does. And you can do it in the house on your own. Doesn't matter what the weather's like. You don't need transport to get you to the gym. So, it must go somewhere. So I needed to test it myself. So I was looking for someone who could do something sitting down, because I'm not active. I'm too old for that sort of thing. So I'm in a kayak. I'm steering it to the right. You can see the action on my right hand there. And then I'll take up both. And I'm in the Arctic. I'm going through the seas. I'm looking at the wildlife. There's an orca, perhaps just going to jump in front of me. That's if you see me jumping out of the sea. No, I don't. There we are. You can hear the sounds. And easy to do. And suddenly, I'm relaxed. And that's suitable for anyone because you can sit down and take your time over it. And you can visit anywhere else, of course. You can go on safari. You can visit the ancient temples of the Incas. You can visit the pyramids, all virtually from the same room. So wireless headsets, hand controllers, that's my paddles. Oh, and I needed something more energetic, so that's Ben. Obviously had to stand up. I'm not sure whether he wanted Queen or whether I wanted Queen, but the game is Beat Saber. He scores every time these little things come down and he smashes through them. So in terms of exercise, pick your own music, pick your own speed, and you can compete. So that's low-cost virtual reality. And we're going to do lots of other things out of them. That's immersive experience. And that's important about having that thing on. You could do it for training because you're then in a world of your own. External extraction, things that really get in the way and could take your mind off what you're doing, they're gone. So it is for everyone. An Australian care home. So that's for show. It's not what they're seeing, but they're all having a different experience. And it's the applications, loads of them. There we are. That is what she's seeing. She always wanted to go on safari, and she's seeing the giraffe. So it's great. It's for everyone. All these people have disabilities, and it's for them as well. They can imagine that they're on a swing or jumping around. He's got a learning disability. He wanted to drive a car. All possible. So it's a consumer product. That's the point. The Apple version is not a consumer product. The VR is a consumer product as long as you have the right supervision, I guess, applications. So we're working on how this fits into social care packages. So what type of interventions can we do? Well, remember the problem of definitions. Lots of different terminology to get used to. We've produced last year this document, 15 pages of it, and it's available. Where is it, Gerard?
It'll be on the new SharePoint page, which is now public for everyone to access that. We'll have all of the training resources, the glossary terms, the assessment inventory product guide, all that will be on there.
Great, so that's there. I talked about 4 pillars of assistive technology. I've redone this as 5. I've combined functional aids with mobile devices because most of them are mobile anyway. But what we now need is to consider this new box of products. And the top one is access to the internet. If you can't have access to the internet, most of the IoT is missing, and the digital therapeutics, you don't access them either. So this is why we really need to go with the digital revolution, and it's about getting access to that internet. It's about using it for all these applications, one and all of them. So why don't people have access to the internet? Well, some of them say, we can't afford to have that connection. Yes? In Suffolk, when you have your package, your tech package, it includes access to the internet. So that, and training too. So they're seeing that you can't separate these things. Access to the internet comes through broadband, of course. That's going to be the fastest. How much a month do you pay for your internet?
£20.
£20 or so, yes, that sort of price range. So typical of a subscription. Then there's mobile everywhere. How much do you pay for your mobile access? £7, that's a low cost one. That's a low cost one, eh? I bet you run out of data every other month.
I don't even use it.
Oh, you don't use it? Oh, you're wasting £7. Okay. Then there's Wi-Fi, which should be everywhere. And is it here? On every wall, there should be your Wi-Fi code is... This is an old building, isn't it? It's going to be demolished soon. But we need to be able to use all of these devices. Easier access for those people we think might struggle. And here are 3 examples. Telecare from Northern Ireland. It's a big touchscreen tablet. When I say big, actually, I mean really big touchscreen tablet. And the idea is the bigger it is, the simpler it is to use. It's actually very good. But comes at costs, as does everything. That's another British one. This one comes from Bristol. It's called Genie Connect. Anyone seen it? It's been used in Shropshire for reablement teams. It's been used a lot in learning disability. In fact, they have a webinar at this moment, which I'd been asked to take part in. I said no. And then there's a third called Comp from Norway. Claim to fame, that's quite big as well, but claim to fame, 1 button control. The idea is if there's only 1 button, you can't get this wrong. Okay.
You know, it's really, really straightforward.
They're all connected. There's no doubt about it. And nothing goes wrong without you knowing about it. I mean, I felt it's been a big help, and it changed my life because I knew that there was contact with them. So it was really a good thing to have.
It really, really does just enhance the connectivity of the family, and even not just for Gran, but for family that stay abroad as well. They're uploading their photos all the time, so it really is a hub of what everybody in the family is doing.
The other 2 devices, the Telecare and the Genie Plus, they can all do that as well. So it's a case of having different options about choices, like we said before. Other things that have changed is this word well-being. Health, you know, we're bringing health and social care closer together. Well-being is still very much a social care issue. Digital therapeutics are the devices that can help improve any of these. So things like breathing, is that meditation, relaxation, sleep improvement, all of these are now available as a digital therapeutic. The problem is that the NHS won't buy them unless they're all DTAC accredited. DTAC, Digital Technology Assessment Criteria. What does it mean? Well, you have to pay someone about £30,000 to get it accredited. So that's going to be a hurdle before we see digital therapeutics on the high street. Well, they'll be on the high street, it's just that we won't be able to get them through the NHS, I suspect, for a while. But what we can do, if we can't get them on the NHS, is there are consumer products. So, Alexa, how many of you have an Amazon Echo or equivalent? Hey, put the hands right up. Don't be ashamed. It's something to be proud of. And I should have done it the other way. Who hasn't got one? Because, hey, before you leave here today, you're going to have at least one of these. Not only can they give information, you can call the family to dinner, whatever. They also link in with a video doorbell. How many of you got video doorbells? Yeah, now you're more security conscious. You look at it, who's there? Oh, don't like the look of them. Ignore them. See, that's how these things work. Microwave controlled by Alexa. Got those? Controlled by Alexa. Bulbs, lights, controlled by Alexa. Washing machine, a Samsung one, controlled by Alexa. Fridge, touch screen, controlled by Alexa. So can you imagine it? Alexa being in charge. My phone, this Fitbit, has Alexa controller. So imagine this in your kitchen. You go up to it and it's locked. And then Alexa says to you, you may not enter the fridge until you've done another 3,000 steps. Because it's read my Fitbit. That would be connected care, wouldn't it? But when you do get in there, it says, we've got cheese and onion and you can make a nice quiche. But the cheese is going off, so I'll order some to replace it. Because it's connected to the internet through Alexa and the shopping list. So all of this is potentially something we could use for support. And there's lots more. We have digital locks, we have fingerprint access locks, and cameras. Cameras, worry about cameras. Anything wrong with a camera in the kitchen? Let's suppose it's a supported house for people with learning disability. So it's actually not only a camera, it also gives access to advice. Someone comes down 3 o'clock in the morning, so someone says to them, hello, John, what do you want at 3 o'clock in the morning? And he might say, I need a snack, or I need a drink. And that's fine, isn't it? But if he wants to make something, that other person on the other end could actually advise them how to do it and make sure there's no fires, because that's the problem, maybe. And talking of fires, these are linked products. They talk to each other. That's what I bought Ben for Christmas. That's the floor. Ben's office, there's a glass door there, and people from other offices pass, and they see this thing buzzing around there. They're really impressed, aren't they, Ben? And of course, there's the watches and the headsets as well, all as consumer products.
You were saying about the camera, and is there any issue with that?
Yep.
A lot of people have slides over their camera on their laptop because they don't.
Yeah. Yes.
About
One of the most popular systems during lockdown was the Portal device. Fits over your television, and it's a camera, and it tracks you around. So you can have those teleconferences or whatever. That has a physical switch again, but it reminds you your camera is off. And it tells other people as well that the camera is off. And people entitled to put it off deliberately, but then...
But have they considered that in the way that they've created these bits of a hardware,
Oh yes, you can have a physical switch and you can have a soft switch.
Not even things like, say you've put that in the house of somebody who's got dementia or whatever, they're not going to be able to do that.
This is true. We're moving into a particular area with dementia. Anything there could potentially be destroyed. I can remember auditing the use of equipment in someone's home where they had dementia, and they'd had 3 flood detectors, and none of them were there. They'd been thrown out. Thought it was soap, and they couldn't get much of a lather on it, so they threw it in the bin. So you don't consider those things. So I'd said, why wasn't the flood detector under the bath rather than next to it, so they wouldn't see it? Oh, that's invading their privacy. Well, I think you have to balance, always have to balance the ethical considerations with the practicalities of why it's going in there at all. So I think we have to address these, but at a local authority level, if we ask the right questions on the ethical front, then we'll get the right answers for what we can and can't do. There will be cases where this will not be used because the person, and sometimes their family, is absolutely insistent that this type of device shouldn't be there, in which case I don't think you have the right to overcome that. But there's always, if you don't want solution A, then you're left with solution B, which could be going to a care home. And then, you start, there is no solution to care needs that doesn't affect lots of people in lots of ways. You have to do that balancing act. And that's the role of the professional, to take everything on board and come up with the right considered answers. But you're right, we have to do it. And when we come to the exercise, we will be, or you'll be expected to make those sorts of judgments, because those questions, somebody could be a devil's advocate asking, what about this, what about that? Okay, moving forward to complete, getting towards the end of this section. Transformation is cyclical. That's the old world of Telecare running out. We're starting the new digital world coming in. In between, we have transition. We are there. Reaching the end of transition, we can dump all the analog world and move forward all the way up to machine intelligence, which people are confused with artificial. There's no artificial intelligence in social care. When they talk about it, they're talking nonsense. They mean machine learning. If you can't teach the system, then it can't artificially make decisions. How do you teach someone something referring to a particular person? We're all different. Social robotics, things that will help and will be acceptable, but that's a long way ahead. Nobody knows how far ahead, but things change very quickly. Your Apple Watch and your Apple phone doesn't last 12 months. It's replaced. Everyone wants the latest. If you're going to determine if it's good or bad, how do you do it? You need a framework. We have a framework we've tried. And this is 5 elements, and it's pretty straightforward. But really, before investing in lots of something, you really need to look at, does it do what you want it to do? So does the system address all the needs? That's another representation of Maslow. We have to start here, but we shouldn't end until we get there. But we also need to go beyond that, because it is about having the access to the infrastructure. It's about having batteries. It's about having people to know and to teach others how it works. Before you have a system, you've got to do that. So the barriers, the big barriers, decisions, specialist versus consumer. Benefits, well, simple to use. That's the idea of having something specialist. In fact, I'll put those all up at once. Pluses and minuses. The big difference, I think, is limited choice and expense for specialist things. And on that side, they can be expensive, but you could buy something that's potentially dangerous. So the comp device that I said was so good, there we are, versus a tablet computer. Does the same sort of thing. You can get a tablet computer the same sort of size. The comp, all the benefits there, managed closed platform, so you can't go on to a gambling site, for example. Dedicated 24-hour support available. It's a consumer product. There's nobody to help you, except everybody knows how a tablet works. Price of a tablet, 150 for a cheap Android one. If you bought an iPad, you pay hundreds. How much is a comp? What do you reckon? 719 a month. There's no ongoing on that one. So for 2 years, it's going to be thousands, isn't it? So you have to consider all of these things. These are all part of moving towards a smart home and a self-care, which is our ambition. We need to be able to make sure that people can look after themselves before they become eligible for social care. Let's help them help themselves. That's what that means, which means very often access to resources. And that will be available, won't it, through the portal eventually, we hope. The plan is, at least. These are all lighter touch interventions, lots of them. Lower cost, lighter touch. That, I think, will be part of hybrid support plans in the future. And the local tech inventory, which Gerard has already alluded to, it's a living document, so things will be added to it all the time. Risk, you all know about risk. It's a product of likelihood and harm. Keep out of the red. So generally speaking, low risk scores are okay. High risk scores, you've got to do something about them to lower the score. Risks to independence, lots of them, lots of them, hundreds of them. You could have a separate sensor for each, never going to happen. We live with risk every day. We need to understand the risk, but actually we can't have a device for everything. This is important because it's a real person. Look at the risks here. What shouts out at you as a risk? Candles, there's a fire risk, isn't there? Old gas stove. What's the difference between a new gas stove and an old gas stove? The cut-off. There's a cut-off on a new one. So if the flame goes out, the gas stops. So lots of risks. And good point, her neighbours are good to her. Okay. Documenting it. Here are the risks, which I think you saw what they might be. How high are those risks? How would you score them out of 25? You see, these, if you do nothing, a fall during the night, no mechanism to get help. She could be there for days. Terrible. A flood. What happens to a flood? Well, it could bring the ceiling down, but it also electrocutes her, knocks out communications, nocturnal wandering, if she goes out somewhere, by the canal, by the river, by a big major road, medication if she gets it wrong, overdoses, gas explosion. Who's the greater risk to? How many people die of gas explosions every year? How many died in June? There's one case, no, Swansea was May. June, there was one, and there were 3 deaths. Swansea, they're right, there were 4 deaths. So almost every month there's deaths. How many of you got a gas detector at home? A gas detector, not carbon monoxide. No. This is methane gas, because that's what blows up. You haven't got one, have you? No? How many of you got carbon monoxide? Yeah, all of you. Which is more dangerous? How many people, just seen 2 or 3 people die every month in a gas explosion? So that's 20, 30 a year. How many people die every year of carbon monoxide poisoning? It is less. It is, although we probably don't know about all of them, but it is less. And yet you've all got a carbon monoxide sensor, but nobody's got a methane sensor. We have. We're all right. We So how do you reduce those scores? If she falls during the night, we can detect that she's got out of bed, knock her up, flood detect, all those simple things we can use, and we reduce the score. So it's nearly all okay or reasonable. And when you put all that together, you solve her problems. What's her life worth? Well, we do it all for £1,100. Of course, there's more than just managing risk. And that's what we have to remember at all times. But
who's going to pay this 1,100? The patient or social services?
well, they're not a patient, are they? Hey, they're not ill. They're a service user, potential service user. They're a citizen. We should pay that, but in practice, you can see the investor save opportunity. Yes. How long would the £1,100 last if you had to put it in a home? You know, how much a week is a home? Just a week, yeah. Yeah. So that's an easy one, I reckon. I would say let the council pay, but it's always one of those. Everyone says that, but it is a dilemma. It is because, you know.
Because they're going to get them to pay for the pendants, alarm over.
Oh, forget the pendant. You don't need that. Don't need that anymore, do you? You don't need that. Do what she needs, not what we thought she needed 10 years ago. And that's the change. If you assess people properly, they get what they need. Okay, so what we have, and this is a general view, the cheapest, the lowest cost ways of doing these things, and priority and cost there, support them to support themselves, or get the family to do it. That's why I put it in green. Then we got the middle of this sandwich, which is a social prescription. Was that a yawn, was it? Okay, that's all right. All of these things have a cost associated with them, but they do follow an assessment of what people need. And then at the bottom level, there's home help. Is that available in Bromley? No, not home help. Nobody to help you with the laundry, change the beds, do a bit of cleaning. Oh, that could be a cleaner, but that's what lots of people need, but it's not available. Domiciliary care, that's the care package, which costs, what, £20 an hour or whatever. A live-in carer, how much does that cost? Gerard, you had one. You had to, not for you, but you had to commission one.
£2,000 a week.
£2,000 a week. And then we have a care home, and that goes up from 1,000, whatever. So that's in red. This is expensive to the individual and to the system. So we really need to focus on things above that if we possibly can. So that these are the ones we really want to avoid, aren't they? Okay, so the Tech Plus service, those 5 elements, and in particular, those 3 are something new. These really, social prescriptions, social workers are encouraged to use the link workers and things like that for those. Traditional AT, that's what OTs have been doing for years. So that's the new part of the service, I suspect. So to come down to the nitty-gritty, that was Janet's choice. Does that work for everyone? No, everyone is different. There's no point saying, I know someone like Janet, she should have that standard package. Doesn't work. Everyone is different. Their circumstances are different. Their houses are different. And what they like are different too. So we've got to do this. So falls, for example, bed occupancy centre, fine, but they're all different as well. We know we need these things. Cheap and cheerful. Have to replace them after 6-7 months because they wear out. So you've got, what if the bed is a profiling bed? You're then going to have something different completely. So different horses for courses.
We all
There's
trip
other ways
and fall,
to do this.
but what happens if you are on your own and can't get up? With a buddy, you don't have to worry about being on your own when you next fall. Your buddy wristband knows when you fall, but you can cancel any alerts, or you can press the alert buttons if you need help. Unlike fall alert pendants, it is designed to be worn 24/7 and is safe to use in the bath or the shower. The wristband is rechargeable and lasts up to 4 weeks between charges. Buddy Connect is our secure app where it's easy to create your own private group of connections.
There we are. I've got no shares in them. I won't push them any harder. The smart lamp, they're going to use these in Suffolk. How does that work? Well, it's a camera. But it's a clever camera, they say. They're looking at the shapes and things, and they give an alert to someone. Well, that's fine if you've got someone. They say it's artificial intelligence. It isn't. It creates an image. It's just that they don't pass the image to a human. Is that acceptable then? Well, that's the Scandinavian method, or that's actually Belgian. The Scandinavian method is similar. The Israelis use microwaves. They use the Wi-Fi routers to see how the signals are disturbed. So there are lots of ways of doing this.
such as this neat Novo device. In addition to social alarm units, Hierarchies can support dry contact integration into all nurse call and warden call systems. Here we have Hierarchies installed on the wall, already connected to the transmitter. Now we'll do a test fall and see how Hierarchies sensors automatically detect that help is needed and notify the care hub through the transmitter. The device on the wall is continually scanning the room to monitor
Terrible
what's
actor.
happening in real time.
That was a fall.
This is Stuart at the alarm centre. Your Hierarchies device sent us a fall alert. Are you okay?
Yeah, he doesn't answer because why did he go down there? Anyway, so what I reckon we need is a strategy where you have hierarchies. Giving you 5 examples, these are sort of persona. That could be anyone really. And as they go up, their needs become greater and greater. So we can have products that are suitable for them as they go up that list. And we could do that for any of these risks. So the most likely source of a flood is someone's new washing machine because they didn't squeeze up the connections enough. So how do we manage right up to the person with dementia who sticks clothing down the toilet, the classic flooding cause there? Well, in each case, a magic plug. Have you seen them? Under a tenner. Flood detector. Sorry? A flood detector. In the previous courses, I brought one along with me and we had a sort of quiz, and the first person who asked, how does that work? I gave it to them. And then they told everyone else how it worked. So perhaps you're lucky that I didn't have one to give you. I now have to tell you how it works. It's green. It changes colour to red if the temperature goes above 39. So it's an anti-scald device, but it's a spring. So if the height of water above it gets above, I think, well, there are 2 versions, one for a basin and one for a bath. If it goes above, I think it's 30 centimetres, the spring compresses and lets the water out. The problem is if you're on a combi boiler and you've just left the tap running, you're paying an awful lot of gas to pay for the water because it's just flowing straight out. Device that looks at levels. Simplest of them all, that's how you have in typically railway station toilets. Tap it, water flows for 10 seconds, then it goes off. So that's simple. It needs a plumber though. And then the one in hotels, it takes the waste and when it reaches that point, it switches things off automatically. Fire, same sort of strategy, different levels of need, right through to the person who has dementia, who might leave the hob on. Different devices, obviously you can have your heat detector in the kitchen, you can move over to a Ninja. Yeah, you've all got Ninjas, have you? Air fryers. Great, aren't they, Ben? Terrific things. Switch off devices. You put your curling tongs in that and then it switches off after half an hour because you've gone to work and left them on. It's something people do quite often apparently. There are automatic devices called Aquamist systems that will fill your kitchen with water particles, small particles that suffocate the fire. It's what they use on ships. Much better than sprinkler systems because they don't saturate everything. And then right at the top, you have automatic cooker switch-off devices that work like this. Okay, you can see what's going to happen. When is the one without Aeris going to go on fire? How long does it take? If you put the oil in a saucepan on the hob, how long before it goes on fire? 2 minutes, any advance on 2 minutes? $5 minutes? No. Well, it's an induction hob, so it's sort of automatic in a way. We've already reached. This is alerting. It can sense the heat, it can sense the smoke. And it's switched off. This one carries on. So how long before the whole thing actually goes on fire? Oh, you can see the smoke, 2 minutes 20. They're both induction hobs. This has got the Hierarchies device, which automatically switches it off. There we are, in flames, 3 minutes. Frightening. If you have to go to the door to answer the postman who can't find another house in the street, how long does it take to actually, frightening, frightening. Anyway, it's good to know that the technology is there. Wandering, another one for dementia perhaps. Again, the risk in the house. They may go out, they may go unsafe places. They go out alone. Again, lots of different options. All of these devices can be used. And the top one there, the history of nocturnal wandering, that can't be taken off, which is many people with dementia, you strap something on their wrist, they will cut it off. Well, they would struggle to cut that one off even. So that's really this whole idea of any risk, and there's a whole set of different parameters you can use. I've left to last the medication one. Lots of different ways to do this, right through to the different types of blister pack. And then there's a service, and this is actually running in Liverpool.
Morning, Joan.
How are you today? Fine, thank you. How's you?
I'm good, thank you. So, have you got your blister pack there with your tablets in?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. So, yeah, if you just hold that up for us.
Well, you can see how that works. How much is it worth?
See your tablets
Supervised by a pharmacist.
That's lovely. So, when you're
in Liverpool, it's used by for people who have complex needs, including people with alcohol or substance abuse issues. Outcomes, compliance has gone from less than 50% to more than 95%. Presentations at A&D gone down from 1 a week to 1 every 3 months. How much is it worth? They charge £7 per person per day. But it's cost effective for the ICS in Liverpool. So that's right at the top. Okay, so there we are, risk, but there's lots of other things to influence what decisions we make.